Don't tell me you didn't know this day would come.
What is going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Critical Overlord here. In this video, I'm going to talk about the chances of us having gotten a movie with Scream 5 where Jill had actually gotten away with it, where we would have gotten Kevin Williamson's original plan for the ending of the fourth movie, which would have bridged us into his plans for Scream 5. Again, in a recent podcast this past weekend, he revealed that in his original plans for Scream 5, we were going to go back to a college setting. And to my belief, I'm willing to bet we would have been following either Kirby or Jill Roberts. One of those two, given the fact that we know for a fact Jill Roberts would have survived the ending of Scream 4. So our two best guesses are going to be Jill Roberts and Kirby Reed. Now, I'm going to talk about what he originally had planned first, and then we're going to get into what I feel like we could have gotten and how it bothers me so much that because of this frustration that he had with the Weinsteins and their constant wanting him to change the script and all of these different things that they did not want him to do with his script and all these different revisions he had to go through until he ultimately left and they brought in Aaron Kruger. He originally wanted to do a film where we were finally going to get something we had not seen with the other Scream movies. He wanted to do something different. He wanted to take a risk. He wanted us to finally have a Ghostface killer who seemingly got away with it all. Jill Roberts in the original ending of Scream 4 and Kevin Williamson's ending was going to seemingly get away with it, and then we were going to be left up and everything was going to be left up in the air for Scream 5. Now, a lot of people, after seeing what his original intent was, with us knowing the fact that Jill was basically going to get carted out of the house the same way that she did in the film that we saw, but we didn't have this hospital ending. Jill was going to get carted out as basically the sole survivor of the mass murders. Charlie and Trevor were going to be in there, and she would, again, lead the cops to find evidence that they were the killers, and that she, because remember at the end of Scream 4, she did all this damage to herself, and she had their handprints all over the place. And we would have found out that Jill got away with it in the end. And however, the thing that would be left up in the air is, did she really? Because in the very end, before the credits roll, somebody in the house was going to say, we got a live one. So Jill is no longer the sole survivor, but we don't know who this live person was going to be until Scream 5. The final thing that gets said on screen, I believe, is Dewey turns around, Aaron. He was going to exclaim Sydney with a question mark on the end, like it's Sydney, and then the movie's just going to end with us not knowing if Sydney was actually the one who was alive or not. And then, of course, in Scream 5, I believe we would have found out it was Sydney. She probably would have had amnesia or something, not understanding everything that fully went on with Jill. She doesn't remember certain bits and pieces, possibly due to blood loss. And getting into what I think is very bothersome to me, the fact that Kevin Williamson wanted to do something different. He wanted to do something that was going to be a very first for the series. None of the other killers have gotten away with it in the past. None of the other killers have gotten away with it. And the fact that the Weinsteins, they were a little bit skeptical about doing that because they didn't want to take the chance of Scream 4 underperforming and then them not getting to follow up with an ending like that with a cliffhanger. Here's my answer to that. First of all, the marketing for Scream 4 wasn't all that great. So if you know that Kevin Williamson wanted to do a certain ending, then I can understand, yes, from a business standpoint, how they wanted to play it safe. But at the same time, if Kevin Williamson is willing to take some risk, this franchise as it is already a pretty solid franchise. It's the most consistent horror franchise out of any of the others. So I feel like us getting to see a movie where we would have gotten Jill Roberts as a survivor and Kirby Reed as a survivor, and then we could have also gotten a potential new set of characters, of course, following them. And then in Scream 5, we could have found out that Jill Roberts got what she wanted. She is now very famous because remember, her whole plan in Scream 4 was to basically have Sydney's life. She grew up resenting Sydney and constantly got tired of hearing about Sydney this, Sydney that, and Sydney, as she put it. She got tired of hearing that growing up, and she wanted what Sydney had. She wanted that fame. She wanted that attention. She wanted that recognition. She wanted to be in the spotlight. Sydney did not want to be in the spotlight per se. She, as we know in every film, Sydney's running away from the media. She's hiding from the media. She can't stand the media. Jill wants to be in the spotlight. She wants to thrive in it. So her whole intent with Scream 4 was to frame her two friends, Charlie and then her ex-boyfriend Trevor, as the two responsible for the Woodsboro Woodsboro remake, as they were calling it. And then again, as we know, in this generation, Charlie was going to be Stu and Trevor was this generation's Billy. I don't know exactly what she would have told them their motives were. That's one thing that has me interested. What would Jill have told the police were Trevor and Charlie's motives? I guess we would have found that out in Scream 5. I think that would have been very interesting. But again, yes, in Scream 5, what I would have thought have been interesting to see was us finally getting to see something like that. A Ghostface who got away with it, but now you're going to suffer the consequences. Because again, her whole intent was she wanted to have Sydney's life. Now, you want Sydney's life, you're about to get it. Sydney has to deal with ghost faces that constantly attack her. And guess who's going to have to deal with that now? Jill. Jill, in my Scream 5, I would find it very interesting for us to see Jill starring in a Stab reboot. What they now are calling the official Stab 4. Because again, if you recall, in the opening of Scream 4, we find out that the Stab franchise has just been trenching off into its own little thing after the original trilogy. The first 3 films, as they put it, followed Sidney Prescott. I believe that was like a direct nod to the original trilogy being about Sydney, the original Scream trilogy. And then that also might have been a slight hint that after that they started doing their own thing. Maybe a slight hint at us venturing away from Sydney for Scream 5 and 6, and Sydney kind of taking a back seat. I think it would have been pretty interesting to finally have that happen, because what we could have had happen was, let's say Jill is starring in a Stab reboot. They're ignoring the other sequels that have nothing to do with Sidney Prescott, because now another real life event has happened. They're going to ignore those films. They're going to make it a direct sequel to the first 3 movies. Jill is starring as herself, and it's basically going to be telling the story of the Woodsboro murders that Charlie and Trevor went on, supposedly. As we all know, it was not Charlie and Trevor. It's going to actually be, it's a film telling the stories of murders that Charlie and Trevor did, but we all know it's actually murders that Jill did. So that in itself, I feel like would have been something interesting. Jill has gotten what she wanted. She's very famous. She's very in the media. She's very popular on social media like Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, perchance. And she's just basically, she's very famous at this point. And again, going into what I was saying, if they were so nervous about ending the movie like this, amp up the marketing. The marketing for Scream 4 was horrendous. We didn't get that much marketing for this movie. We got trailers and TV spots, but I feel like that's it, and a few different apps on app stores. But other than that, nothing. Just rumblings about the troubled production that it had at the very end of it, and just several other things that I was not really a fan of personally with the marketing, because that's why it underperformed. I can understand them not wanting to do Kevin Williamson's ending because of the chances of it underperforming, but at the same time, the movie underperformed partially due to the marketing. I think it would have been very interesting to finally see something like that, where the Ghostface killer got away with it and now they're going to suffer the consequences. Getting back to what I was saying though, Jill is starring in this Stab reboot, which is officially titled Stab 4. It's telling the stories of the events that happened in Scream 4. The movie's about to come out, and then all of a sudden now Jill's getting taunted by a Ghostface killer. This Ghostface killer is somebody who knows the truth. They know that Jill was the actual one responsible for those killings, and they want to expose her. They're threatening to expose her. Now, there's a few possible choices of who this person could be. It could be somebody who she worked with on set of this Stab reboot. It could be somebody from Woodsboro who knew the truth. Or it could be somebody who she has wronged online in the toxic fandom and the crazed fandom that we know exists online, who is a diehard fan of Sidney Prescott. They are a conspiracy theorist who believes that there was another killer and it wasn't Charlie and Trevor. Let's say in Scream 5, we have online forums who are theorizing things like what we have in real life about conspiracy theories and everything. In this Scream 5, there's online conspiracy theories that Jill Roberts was actually the one responsible for the Woodsboro murders. And one person in particular, they believe it 100%. Not only do they believe it, they have hardcore evidence. And they're going to be threatening Jill and threatening to expose her. Jill's going to be forced to do things that she does not want to do. She's going to have her back against the wall in this situation. And it's going to be something that she's going to have to figure out how to deal with, because this person could also be somebody who, again, is a crazed fan of Sidney Prescott, and they are not pleased with what Jill has done. They are not pleased with the fact that Jill has stole Sidney's life, that she ruined Sidney's life, and that she's now thriving off of that. They want Jill to suffer. So I think that would be very interesting to see if we had actually gotten a Ghostface who was going to now be plagued by another Ghostface, someone who wants to expose them and bring justice to the fact of what they have done. This Ghostface could also be going after other people who have wronged them. Maybe this is an individual on set who felt like they were mistreated on set. Maybe it was somebody who, another very clever thing that I'm now thinking of, maybe this is somebody who auditioned for the role of Jill Roberts. Again, a new Nightmare type of deal. This is very new Nightmare. They auditioned for the role of Jill Roberts. They never got it because the role, of course, was given to Jill Roberts. Jill Roberts was casted to play Jill Roberts in Stab 4, and they were not satisfied with that. And then, of course, they started hopping online with these theories, these conspiracy theories that Jill was the one responsible for the Woodsboro murders. They find proof of this, and then enraged that they didn't get the role in Stab 4, they now want to kill Jill for stealing their role in the film, and of course for Jill actually being the one responsible for the Ghostface killing sprees, not Charlie and Trevor. And then also this person is a big fan of Sidney Prescott. They're not satisfied with Jill. I think that would have been a very interesting Scream movie to see. Jill suffering with her actions. Actions have consequences now. You wanted Sidney's life, now you got it. Let me know what you guys think about this down in the comment section below. If you haven't already, make sure you subscribe and turn on post notifications so that you never miss a video. In the description, I'll have links on my social media accounts on my Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. You can message me there to let me know if there's any movies, news, or reviews you would like me to cover in the future. With all that in mind, guys, I will see you in the next video.